Two names, 22 years, and a question the world still cannot settle. Before we even get into it, I want you to think about something. Every great sport has had its rivalry. Ali versus Frazier, Federer versus Nadal, Bird versus Magic. But here's what's different about this one. Those rivalries ended, those men retired, and the debate was filed away into history. Messi and Ronaldo, they are both still playing, right now in the summer of 2026, with a World Cup happening on American soil. These two men, aged 38 and 41, are suiting up for their countries one more time. Messi is defending a world title. Ronaldo is chasing the one thing he never won. And here's the thing nobody is saying loudly enough. This is the last time we will ever see them at a World Cup together. After this summer, it's over. The greatest rivalry in the history of sport ends in the United States in 2026. So before that happens, let's go through the entire story, from the beginning. Every trophy, every title, every defining moment, and one final verdict. Let's go. To understand this rivalry, you have to understand who these two men were before they became myths. Cristiano Ronaldo grew up in Funchal, Madeira, Portugal, a small island off the coast of Portugal. His father was a kit man at a local club. The family didn't have much. As a 12-year-old, he begged his mother to let him leave home and join Sporting CP's academy in Lisbon, 500 miles away. He was mocked for his accent. He responded by training harder than anyone else. That obsessive, almost compulsive drive to prove himself became the defining engine of his entire career. Lionel Messi's story is equally extraordinary, but in a completely different key. He grew up in Rosario, Argentina, quiet, introverted, frighteningly gifted from the moment he first touched a ball. At 11, he was diagnosed with a growth hormone deficiency that would have ended most kids' careers before they started. Barcelona stepped in, funded his treatment, reportedly sealed the deal on a napkin, and brought him to Spain at 13. He never left. He absorbed the DNA of that club and that football philosophy until the two became inseparable. Two different continents, two completely different temperaments, two entirely different ideas of what genius looks like, and somehow they both arrived at the summit of world football at exactly the same time. What are the odds? Between 2009 and 2018, La Liga was essentially a two-man show. Everything else was background noise. In those 9 seasons, the Ballon d'Or, the sport's most prestigious individual award, was won by either Messi or Ronaldo every single year, without exception, 9 consecutive years. From 1956 to 2008, that trophy was shared among dozens of different winners. Then these two arrived and shut the door on everyone else for nearly a decade. The numbers from this period are staggering. Ronaldo scored 311 goals in 292 La Liga appearances for Real Madrid. Messi had a 2011-12 season where he scored 50 league goals in 37 games, a record that may stand forever. These weren't just good footballers operating at a high level. They were doing things that had no historical precedent. Coaches, analysts, statisticians, nobody had a framework for what they were seeing. But here's what I think gets lost in the stat wars. They made each other better, genuinely. There are interviews where Messi has acknowledged that seeing Ronaldo score a hat-trick pushed him. People close to Ronaldo have said the same in reverse. The rivalry wasn't just external, it was internal fuel. Without each other, it's entirely possible that neither of them reaches the heights they did. And the El Clásico matches from this period, some of the most watched club games in the history of the sport, were referendum moments. Not just Real Madrid versus Barcelona, but a live 90-minute answer to the world's biggest football question. And then Ronaldo did something nobody in La Liga saw coming. He left. In the summer of 2018, he walked away from Real Madrid, away from Messi, away from the stage that had defined him for 9 years. And the moment he did, everyone realized something they hadn't admitted while it was happening. They needed each other. The rivalry had been the engine of an entire era. Without it, it's entirely possible that neither of them reaches the heights they did. And the trophies argument, though, that was still very much alive, and it was about to get complicated.
Now we need to address the biggest battlefield in this debate, trophies, specifically the Champions League. When people argue for Ronaldo, this is where they plant their flag. 5 Champions League titles, 1 with Manchester United, 4 with Real Madrid, including 3 consecutive between 2016 and 2018. That three-peat in the modern format of the competition had never been done. It's the kind of achievement that in any other era would end the conversation entirely. But here's where it gets complicated. Messi won 4 Champions Leagues with Barcelona, 2 of which came with what many consider the greatest club side ever assembled. He was surrounded by Xavi, Iniesta, Dani Alves, and later Neymar and Suarez. Ronaldo at Real Madrid had Benzema, Bale, Modric, and Kroos, elite teammates on both sides. The who had better support argument cuts both ways and always will. Then you get to the international stage, and for years, this is where Ronaldo supporters had the clearest edge. He had the European Championship from 2016. Messi had nothing. 4 Copa America finals, 4 losses. He briefly retired from international football in 2016, came back, and the criticism followed him everywhere. Then 2021 happened. Messi finally won the Copa America, his first senior international title, and something shifted. You could see it on his face. He didn't celebrate like a player who just won a tournament. He celebrated like a man who'd been carrying a weight for 15 years, and someone finally lifted it off his shoulders. But that was only the first act of what became the most extraordinary final chapter in sporting history.
Qatar 2022. If you watched a single minute of that tournament and weren't gripped, I genuinely don't know what sport you're watching. Messi had one shot left at the one trophy missing from his collection. Argentina had the team, and they had a 35-year-old Messi who played like time was personal, and he intended to fight it. 7 goals, 3 assists, moments of individual quality that defied age, defied physics, and defied every tired narrative about him not showing up when it mattered. Most importantly, leadership. This was not the quiet, diffident Messi of earlier World Cups. This was a man who grabbed games by the throat and refused to let go. The final against France is the greatest World Cup final ever played. Argentina led 2-0. France came back to 2-2 in the last 10 minutes. Extra time. Messi scored to make it 3-2. Kylian Mbappe completed his hat trick to level at 3-3. Penalties. And Messi, captain, 35 years old, walked to the spot and scored without a flicker of hesitation. Argentina won. And the debate, not about who is the greatest, that will never be fully settled, but about Messi's legacy, his completeness, his courage in the biggest moments, that shifted permanently. Where was Ronaldo during all of this? On the bench for Portugal, replaced, visibly emotional, watching the knockout rounds from the stands after Portugal were eliminated by Morocco. It was one of the most striking images in World Cup history, the contrast between the 2 men at that precise moment, one holding the trophy, one watching from the seats. But here's what I'll say about Ronaldo in Qatar, because it matters. He refused to disappear. He came back to Al Nassr, extended his career into his 40s, and kept scoring at a rate that embarrassed players half his age. He wasn't finished, not even close.
This is the part of the story that most people underestimate, because after Qatar, the assumption was that both men would fade, wind down, collect their legacy, and start preparing their retirement speeches. Instead, they both did something remarkable. They kept going, and they kept winning. Ronaldo joined Al Nassr in January 2023 and immediately redefined what elite goal scoring looks like in the Saudi Pro League. By the end of the 2025-26 season, he had scored 30 goals in 37 appearances to lead Al Nassr to their first Saudi Pro League title, his first club trophy in over 3 years. At 41 years old, he was still the most clinical finisher on the pitch. His overall goal tally has now passed 900 career goals across all competitions. 900! Let that number sit for a second. He also added a second UEFA Nations League title with Portugal in 2025, defeating Spain in the final. And now, heading into the 2026 World Cup in North America, he arrives as the all-time leading scorer in men's international football, 143 goals in 226 appearances, and with a genuine shot at scoring in a 6th consecutive World Cup, something no outfield player has ever done. Messi, meanwhile, landed in Miami in the summer of 2023 and didn't so much join MLS as he transformed it.
By the time the 2025 season ended, he had won MLS Cup with Inter Miami, their first ever league title, scoring 2 assists in the final and being named MVP of the match. He won back-to-back MLS MVP awards, becoming the first player in league history to take the award in consecutive seasons. He won the MLS Golden Boot. In March 2026, he scored his 900th career goal. He signed a contract extension with Inter Miami through 2028, meaning he'll still be playing professional football at 41, and he won the 2024 Copa America, making him a 2-time continental champion with Argentina. And now, he's at the 2026 World Cup as the defending champion, wearing that gold star above the badge, walking out onto American soil in front of record crowds as the man who last lifted the trophy and who already scored a hat trick in the opening game of this tournament. 2 men, both in the 900-goal club, both still playing, both at this World Cup. If you'd told anyone 5 years ago this was possible, they would have laughed at you.
Here's the part of this conversation that matters most, and the part that rarely gets said. Messi and Ronaldo aren't just footballers. They're cultural archetypes. They represent 2 fundamentally different ideas about what greatness looks like. Ronaldo is the self-made man, the kid from nothing who forged himself through sheer relentless will. His body, his records, his brand, all of it constructed from scratch. He is proof that obsession and work ethic can elevate a human being to a level that seems almost unnatural. At 41, still competing at a World Cup, there's a reason his airport exists. There's a reason the statue was built. He constructed himself into a monument and then refused to stop adding to it. Messi is the chosen one, the player who makes football look like the sport was invented specifically for him, whose vision, touch, and movement belong to a category that coaches cannot teach because it simply cannot be taught. He's proof that some people are touched by something the rest of us can't fully explain. And he spent 22 years quietly, relentlessly, proving that touch also came with the courage and hunger to go all the way. Both of those things are true. Both of those things are beautiful, which is why the world cannot agree on who is greater. And maybe it shouldn't, because the answer you give says something about what you value, not what's objectively correct. Do you believe greatness is built? Vote Ronaldo. Do you believe greatness is born? Vote Messi. Neither answer is wrong.
Let's lay it out plainly, because these numbers deserve to be said out loud. Messi, 8 Ballon d'Or awards, more than any player in history, 4 Champions Leagues, 10 La Liga titles, the 2021 Copa America, the 2024 Copa America, the 2022 World Cup, the 2025 MLS Cup, over 900 career goals, the most goals in La Liga history, most assists in international football history, 46 team trophies, the most decorated player in the history of professional football. Ronaldo, 5 Ballon d'Or awards, 5 Champions Leagues, Euro 2016, 2 UEFA Nations League titles, the 2025-26 Saudi Pro League, over 900 career goals, 143 international goals, the most in men's football history, the only outfield player on course to appear at 6 World Cups. Both of those CVs are so extraordinary that if either man had played in a different era, we'd call them the greatest footballer who ever lived without a moment's hesitation. The gift and the tragedy is that they shared the same era, and we got to watch it all.
Here's where I'll leave you. This summer on American soil, both of them are playing their final World Cup. Whatever happens in the next few weeks will be the last chapter of the greatest individual sporting rivalry of the 21st century. After this, there are no more stages left, no more chances to add to the story, to answer the critics, to chase down one more record. Messi is 38, defending champion, wearing the gold star, still producing the kind of football that makes grown men forget to breathe. Ronaldo is 41, chasing the one thing that has always eluded him, still capable of a moment that will make you question everything you think you know about what a human body can do at that age. Kids across Mumbai, Sao Paulo, Lagos, Jakarta, Manchester, New York, and Los Angeles grew up with these 2 men as their reference point for human excellence. That is a legacy that doesn't expire when they retire. So the next time someone asks you, Messi or Ronaldo, don't just throw out a name. Think about everything you saw. Think about that World Cup final. Think about 5 Champions Leagues and 3 in a row. Think about 91 goals in a calendar year. Think about 900 goals each. Think about the dribbles, the free kicks, the last-minute winners, the moments that made you jump off your sofa at midnight and shout at your TV. Then think about whether the world will ever see two players like this at the same time again. I genuinely don't think it will, and I think deep down, neither do you. Drop your verdict in the comments, Messi or Ronaldo, and tell me the one moment that defines your answer. And if you ever switched sides, if there was a single match, a single goal, a single night that made you change your mind about which one is greater, I want to know that too. I read every single one.